I wonder how many times I'm gonna say time in this episode. Time is an interesting concept, and I've spent the last 6 or 7 years trying to understand it better in an attempt to try and be more productive rather than just being busy. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I am an expert on time management or that I've got it all figured out, because I'll be honest, I don't. But it's really been on my mind lately as I'm trying to tackle all of the things that we need to do in life. So, let's talk about it. Time can be quite perplexing. Now, this part of the conversation may get a little out there, but please follow with me. I will do my best to try and put together coherent thoughts in why it's so perplexing to me. And then I'll go into some of the things that I'm doing, some of the things that I've tried to do or look at, and things that I'm going to do in the future. So whenever I start thinking about time, my brain always goes kind of off on this tangent, right? Because time has this weird dichotomy to it. It's a natural phenomenon, but yet the concept of time on the clock is a human construct. So what I mean by that is, there's days and there's nights. There's seasons throughout the year. There's definitely a pattern to the year. However, us humans have a need to categorize, quantify, and organize everything. And so we as humans found that pattern, and then we put names and numbers to those things. There's 24 hours in a day, 28 to 31 days in a month, 365 days a year. That's the human construct part of it. And that always just kind of baffles me. Now, here's another thought that I always go to that's a little strange and a little out there as well, is because we have tried to categorize time, 365 and a quarter days throughout the year, I feel as if the seasons are changing, that they're kind of shifting. And this could just be in my own head. I don't know. It feels to me like it's just off just a little bit. Now, that's why we do the leap year, right? Is to correct that not perfect natural phenomenon to make it fit into our human construct. But that's getting out there, so let's just move on from that before I lose everybody. The other crazy thing that I always think about when it comes to time is the fact that it seems to change depending on what you're doing and depending on what phase of life you're in. I remember being a kid and, man, the days just seemed to be so long sometimes. And when people would tell you, oh man, here in a couple years, that seems forever. And now as an adult, I'm like, a couple years? Oh, that's like nothing, right? No time at all. It's weird how that changes. And then there's the saying that time flies when you're having fun. So we lose track of that time, right? It's just a strange thing to think about. Another crazy thing that comes to mind is our time on this earth is very, very tiny compared to the entire timeline of, let's say, the earth or the universe or whatever you want to say. And it's very finite, right? And this is a morbid thought to have, but we all only have a certain amount of time on this earth, a certain amount of time to live. The crazy part about that is we don't know how much time we have. And that's why I do believe that time is our most valuable resource. It's the only non-renewable resource. You don't get any time back. But then at the same time, we as humans waste so much time. Because when we're just living our life day to day, it feels like it can go on forever. We never feel like we're going to die tomorrow, right? And that's a scary thought to have. Now, I don't say all of this to say that we need to be 100% productive, be producing all of the time. We've got to schedule in time to rest and recoup and relax. Absolutely. But it's just crazy to me how much time we waste. But then we have these talks about not wanting to waste time, that we want to do this and we want to do that. But then we spend so much time just sitting on our asses and doing nothing. And I'm always trying to think of ways that I can maximize or manage my time so that I can be productive. Because here's the thing, I hate being busy. When I talk to friends that I don't talk to every day, and you have that small talk, that conversation, well, how are things going? A lot of times people say, oh, I'm busy. Or people will straight up ask me when it comes to my work, hey, are you busy? Be like, yeah, man, life's always busy. But I hate saying that. I hate saying, yeah, I'm busy. I want to say, yeah, I'm being productive. This is what I'm working on. This is where I'm moving towards. I don't like busy work. I really don't. It just seems to be a waste of time. So how do we figure that out? How do we manage our time to be productive, to be able to do the things that we want to do, to be able to achieve the goals we want to achieve? Schedule in our work time that we have to have. And for some of us, that's very easy, right? We go to work at a certain time, we leave work at a certain time. But since I work for myself, I'm always battling that balance between how much work I need to put in to be productive, but then also those obligations of life. It's a delicate balance. And sometimes I just feel like I don't have a good grasp of that. And that's okay. I'm just trying to figure it out. But how do we figure that out? What do? We've got to try things, right? So I've definitely tried the concept of time blocking. Basically, time blocking is you take chunks of time and you dedicate it to a certain task. And I still use kind of a pseudo time blocking process right now. And why I say pseudo is because, one, I'm not super great at it, I'll be honest. I do not like leaving things undone, but I'm trying to be better about that, saying, hey, for these 2 hours, I've got this dedicated work, or for this 4 hours, I've got this dedicated work, or this time is family time. I really try to be disciplined about that, but it's a challenge. I also say that it's kind of a pseudo time blocking because I try to do one schedule for every single day and do the same thing every single day. However, depending on the day, that can be extremely challenging because we've got different obligations throughout the day. There may be different meetings or things that happen. It's just, my day just is not structured. So I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about, rather than thinking about it in simply days or even hours, you got to think about it in a broader picture. For instance, if you've got a deadline to get something done, think you put that stake in the ground and you say, here in a month, this has got to be out. And then depending on the day, you might heavily work on it that day, but then the next day you might be working on something else. So I'm kind of doing a pseudo time blocking thing. So one of the other things that I try to do periodically is track my time so that I understand where I'm spending my time. But here's another concept that I'm going to try to incorporate that I heard the other day is don't just simply track your time, but actually track how you feel about that time. Did it feel good? Was it productive? Is it taking steps towards achieving your goals? And then that will kind of determine whether or not you need to spend more time on that or even less time on that. So we're going to give that a shot. We're going to see how that works out. So something interesting that I observed when I'm doing this time tracking is the fact that I actually don't have as much time to do the things that I need to do that I think I do. There's all the different rigors of life. So when I decided to start working for myself, I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to have, 8 to 10 hours a day, because that's what I did when I was in my employee life, is you work 8 to 10 hours a day. What I realized is when you start working for yourself, the actual work to produce whatever it is you're trying to produce is actually a fraction of that time. Now, majority of what you do is that, but you've got to spend time working on the business rather than just working in the business. Now, another interesting observation that I've had is the fragmentation of your time. When we are distracted, or there's this constant phone calls or constant emails, or, keeping track of different communication apps, whatever it is, you get pulled away and it's hard to get back into it. And I've observed that in my life. So one thing that I'm really going to try to do is try to be better about this time blocking thing, that like, hey, I'm only going to respond to emails at this such and such time. That's going to be a super challenge, because you get emails that come throughout the day and you feel obligated to respond to those. You don't want people to think that you aren't seeing them. Or sometimes they'll send an email and then that person will call you, hey, did you see that email I sent you? And I've been guilty of that in the past as well. But rather than doing that, what I try to do is I just try to make that phone call rather than send an email and then follow up with a phone call right after. So again, this concept of time has definitely been on my brain lately. I'm really trying to work towards achieving some pretty big goals. And so I've been thinking a lot about it. How can I maximize my time and maximize my productivity? And so these are some of the things that I'm going to work on. There's a lot of good books out there and everything, but I was turned on to a couple books in particular. and they're both by Cal Newport. So that's why I'm looking down here, because I've got it on my phone here. But the book is actually called Deep Work. And then he's got another one, The Art of Slow Productivity. I think that's the name of it. So I want to pick up these books. I want to read them to try and help better understand my time and how I can be productive, but then also really find that balance between productivity and the rest and recovery and all the other obligations of life. So that's what we're going to work on. And that's what I've been thinking about the last couple of days. So I'm curious to hear from you. Have you ever just sat and thought about the ambiguity of time? How perplexing it is from an abstract position? And have you ever thought about how your time is limited and how that makes time your most valuable resource and the only non-renewable resource? So let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this. I appreciate you being here and listening to me ramble. I really do. I know today was a little out there. Sometimes my brain can go 1,000 miles a minute and I don't make a lot of sense. So hopefully I was able to explain myself well today. And if you listen this far, I really do appreciate you. Thank you for being here. As always, make the day great, make the day yours. We'll catch you next time. See ya!